Some people spend their entire lives wondering if they'll ever make a difference. Claire Donovan had exactly 4 minutes. 4 minutes to save a stranger. 4 minutes that would expose a secret she'd spent 20 years trying to forget. And 4 minutes that would bring the FBI to her front door. The first thing I noticed that Tuesday morning wasn't the screaming, it was the coffee, burnt, again. I stared at the paper cup in my hand and sighed. One day, I muttered to myself, this hospital cafeteria is actually going to learn how to make coffee. The woman behind the register laughed. You say that every Tuesday. And every Tuesday I'm right. She smiled. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I'll probably complain then too. We both laughed. Sometimes the smallest conversations were enough to survive a 12-hour emergency room shift. I checked my watch, 6:48 a.m., only 12 minutes before my shift officially started. I could already hear ambulance sirens somewhere in the distance. Just another ordinary day. Or so I thought. My name is Claire Donovan. I'm 32 years old. I've worked as an emergency room nurse at St. Matthew Medical Center for almost 9 years. People often call nurses heroes. They're wrong. Heroes run toward danger. We simply meet danger after it arrives. Most days are predictable. Heart attacks, broken bones, children with fevers, car accidents, the occasional overdose. You learn to separate emotion from responsibility. If you don't, the job destroys you. Still, there are moments that stay with you forever. This would become one of them. As I stepped outside the hospital entrance to finish my coffee, rain began falling. Not heavy, just enough to leave tiny circles across the pavement. Patients hurried toward the entrance carrying umbrellas. Doctors rushed between buildings. The city was waking up. Then, I noticed him, across the street, walking alone, tall, broad shoulders, dark navy jacket, duffel bag slung over one shoulder. He moved with the posture I'd seen countless times before, military. Even out of uniform, you could usually tell. Years of discipline never completely disappeared. He paused near the crosswalk, pressed one hand against his chest. His face tightened. Something wasn't right. A businessman brushed past him. Another woman glanced briefly before looking away. The man took another step, then another. Suddenly, his knees buckled. The duffel bag slipped from his shoulder. His body collapsed hard against the wet sidewalk. People screamed. Someone dropped their groceries. Cars slammed on their brakes. For one frozen second, everyone stared. Nobody moved. I threw my coffee onto the pavement. "Call 911!" I shouted while sprinting across the street. By the time I reached him, his lips had already begun turning blue. His breathing was gone. No pulse. No heartbeat. A young college student knelt beside me. Oh my God, is he dead? I ignored the question. What's the time? She looked at her phone. 6:52. I nodded once. Start counting. Training takes over before fear has time to arrive. I opened his airway. Nothing. Checked for breathing. Nothing. Pulse. Nothing. Cardiac arrest. People assume saving someone is dramatic. It isn't. It's methodical. Precise. Every second matters. I began chest compressions. 1, 2, 3. My arms locked. Shoulders directly over my hands. Compress at least 2 inches. 120 beats per minute. Exactly as I'd practiced thousands of times. Someone bring me the AED. Nobody moved. They're inside the hospital, I shouted. A security guard finally understood. He sprinted toward the emergency entrance. The college student beside me was crying. I've never seen anything like this. Then keep counting. She swallowed hard. 32. I gave 2 rescue breaths. His chest barely rose. Airway partially blocked. Not choking. Something else. I quickly repositioned his head. Tried again. Better. Back to compressions. A crowd surrounded us. Phones appeared. People recording. Someone whispered, "He's dying." I looked up sharply. Then stop filming and help. An older man immediately stepped forward. What do you need? Hold his shoulders steady. He nodded, without another word. The security guard returned carrying the AED. I ripped open the case, turned on the unit, attached pads, one beneath the collarbone, the other below the ribs. The machine began analyzing. Shock advised. The automated voice echoed across the sidewalk. The crowd stepped back. Everybody clear. No one touched him. I pressed the flashing button. His body jerked violently. Immediately, I resumed compressions. No hesitation, no waiting. Another cycle. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. Rain soaked my sweater. My knees scraped against the pavement. Nothing else existed. Only rhythm, pressure, time. Then, something caught my attention. A faint scar, hidden beneath the edge of his shirt. Not an ordinary surgical scar. Military. Old shrapnel injury. Years healed. My brain recognized it instantly. Though, I couldn't explain why. I'd never served. Yet somehow, I knew exactly what kind of wound it had once been. The realization disappeared as quickly as it came. No time to think. The AED spoke again. Analyzing rhythm. No one breathed. Shock advised. Again. Clear! Second shock. His body lifted slightly. Silence. No pulse. Back to compressions. The student looked terrified. It's been almost 4 minutes. I didn't answer. Because I knew. Brain damage becomes increasingly likely after 4 minutes without oxygen. We were almost out of time. I leaned closer. Spoke quietly near his ear. I don't know who you are, but today is not the day you die. Then, I changed something. Not something taught in ordinary nursing school. Something my hand simply remembered. I repositioned one hand beneath his shoulder blade, applied pressure at an unusual angle, adjusted his jaw, pressed 2 fingers against a precise point below his collarbone, then delivered one final rescue breath. The older man stared. What are you doing? I honestly didn't know. It just felt right, as if someone had once taught me, long ago. Suddenly the man's entire body convulsed. He coughed violently. Water and air burst from his lungs. Then, he gasped, a deep, desperate breath, the sweetest sound I'd heard in years. The college student burst into tears. Oh my God! He's breathing! Applause erupted around us. Someone actually cheered. The man opened his eyes for only a second, confused, disoriented. He looked directly at me. Our eyes met. For one strange moment, he seemed to recognize me. Then he whispered something so quietly, I almost missed it. Falcon. Before I could ask what he meant, he lost consciousness again. Still breathing, but unconscious. The first ambulance arrived seconds later. Paramedics rushed toward us. One of them looked at the monitor. His eyebrows shot upward. Sinus rhythm? He stared at me. You got him back? Eventually. How long? The student answered before I could. 4 minutes. The paramedic looked genuinely stunned. He shouldn't be alive. I know. As they loaded him into the ambulance, one of the paramedics handed me his military identification that had fallen from the duffel bag. Commander Logan Pierce, United States Navy. Below it, one word. SEAL. I quietly handed it back. A Navy SEAL. That explained the scars. The posture. The strength. But not the word he'd whispered. Falcon. I finally looked down. My hands were shaking. Not during the rescue. Only afterward. That's how adrenaline works. The older man gently handed me my soaked hospital ID badge. You saved his life. I smiled weakly. I just did my job. He shook his head. No, you did more than that. Inside the emergency department, the story spread quickly. By lunchtime, everyone knew. The nurse who revived the SEAL. Doctors congratulated me. Residents asked questions. Even the hospital director stopped by. You've made this hospital proud. I appreciated the kindness, but something felt off. I couldn't stop thinking about the technique I'd used. The shoulder, the pressure point, the breathing adjustment. Where had I learned it? Every nursing course I'd ever taken flashed through my mind. Nothing matched. That evening, I drove home exhausted. My apartment overlooked a quiet park. Usually, watching children play helped me relax. Not today. The word echoed endlessly. Falcon, Falcon, Falcon. Why did it sound familiar? At exactly 8:17 p.m., someone knocked on my apartment door. 3 firm knocks, professional, measured. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole. 2 men, dark suits, 1 woman, navy blue blazer, government badges clipped to their belts. My stomach tightened. I slowly opened the door. The older man offered a polite smile. Claire Donovan? Yes, he showed his badge. Federal Bureau of Investigation. My name is Special Agent Nathan Cole. We'd like to ask you a few questions. I blinked. About the Navy officer? He exchanged a brief glance with the woman beside him, then looked back at me. Partly. He paused. But that's not our main reason. A chill ran down my spine. What is? His expression became serious. We need to know where you learned the military resuscitation technique you used this morning. I stared at him. I don't know what you're talking about. Agent Cole held my gaze. We believe you do. And after reviewing 20-year-old classified records, we think your name may not actually be Claire Donovan. My heart stopped. What? He slowly reached into his briefcase, pulled out an old photograph. A little girl, about 12 years old, standing beside a man wearing a military uniform. The girl's face was unmistakably mine. Across the bottom, someone had written one word, Falcon. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe. The little girl in the photograph was me. The same blue eyes, the same tiny scar beside my left eyebrow, even the faded yellow raincoat I somehow remembered wearing. But the man standing beside her, I'd never seen him before, or at least, I didn't think I had. Special Agent Nathan Cole studied my face carefully. He wasn't watching for recognition. He was watching for deception. May we come in, Miss Donovan? I stepped aside without saying a word. The three agents entered quietly. No raised voices, no threats, no hand on a weapon. If anything, they looked more curious than suspicious. My apartment suddenly felt much smaller. The older female agent glanced around the room. Books, houseplants, a worn-out sofa, medical textbooks stacked beside the coffee table. Everything about my life was ordinary, almost painfully ordinary. Agent Cole remained standing. I know this must feel overwhelming. You have no idea, I answered. He nodded. I think I do. He placed the photograph on my dining table. Next to it, another photograph. This one showed the same little girl, only younger, maybe 8 years old. She wore oversized protective headphones, a camouflage jacket, standing beside what looked like a military helicopter. I frowned. I've never seen these. Agent Cole looked surprised. You genuinely don't remember? No? The female agent quietly asked. What is your earliest memory? I thought carefully. My 8th birthday. Where? I don't know. My parents said we'd just moved. Cole wrote something in a notebook. Your parents, James and Linda Donovan. I smiled. They're wonderful people. They adopted you. I know. I've always known. He slowly nodded. They've told you that much. That much? I repeated. They never explained where you came from. I shook my head. They said my biological parents died. Agent Cole looked at the woman beside him. Neither of them spoke. That silence frightened me more than any answer could have. Finally, Cole sat down. I'm going to tell you a story. I need you to listen carefully. If anything sounds familiar, tell me immediately. I nodded. 24 years ago, the United States government operated a classified survival training program. It wasn't designed for children. It was designed for special operations personnel. I frowned. What does that have to do with me? He continued. One civilian family lived inside that training compound. They weren't soldiers. They were medical instructors. I blinked. My biological parents? He nodded. Your father, Dr. Michael Carter, combat trauma surgeon. Your mother, Dr. Elena Carter, critical care physician. The names meant nothing, yet my chest suddenly felt tight, as if I'd heard them before, long ago. Cole continued. They trained elite military units, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Delta Force, Marine Force Recon. The female agent gently slid another picture across the table. My heart skipped. A little girl, wearing oversized blue medical gloves, standing on a wooden crate, watching surgeons operate. She couldn't have been older than 10. I stared. That's impossible. Is it? Cole asked quietly. I've never been inside an operating room before nursing school. He didn't answer. Instead, he handed me another document, a faded training evaluation. Across the top, one handwritten note. Subject, Falcon age, 10 medical recall accuracy, 99.4%. I laughed nervously. This can't be real. No 10-year-old can do that. Cole looked at me. Exactly. The room suddenly felt colder. Rain tapped softly against my apartment windows. He spoke again. Your parents believe children learn differently than adults. They never forced you. You simply watched. And remembered. I rubbed my temples. My parents never mentioned any of this. Because they couldn't. They signed lifetime security agreements. I looked toward the photographs again. The little girl looked happy, confident. Nothing like the confused woman sitting in front of 3 FBI agents. Then something strange happened. A memory. Only half a second. Bright operating room lights. Someone laughing. A man's deep voice saying, "Good job, Falcon." The image disappeared instantly. I grabbed the edge of the table. The female agent noticed. What did you remember? It wasn't really a memory. It was a voice. Cole leaned forward. What did it say? I swallowed. Good job, Falcon. Neither agent moved, but both exchanged another look. At that exact moment, Cole's phone vibrated. He glanced down. Read the message. His expression changed completely. What happened? I asked. He stood immediately. Commander Logan Pierce regained consciousness. And? He specifically requested, he looked directly at me, to speak with you. I frowned. Why? He says, Cole hesitated. He knows who Falcon is. Every hair on my arm stood up. 30 minutes later, I was walking through the intensive care unit. Only this time, I wasn't wearing scrubs. I was following FBI agents. Nurses stared. Doctors whispered. Nobody understood why federal agents were escorting one of their own employees. Neither did I. Commander Logan Pierce lay quietly inside ICU Room 7. Monitors beeped steadily. His color had returned. He looked exhausted, but alive, very much alive. When I stepped inside, his eyes immediately found mine. For several seconds, he simply stared, not confused, not surprised, as if he'd been expecting me. I smiled politely. I'm glad you're awake. His voice remained weak. You saved me. I'm a nurse. It's what we do. He slowly shook his head. No, you didn't use civilian CPR. I glanced toward Agent Cole. He remained silent. Logan continued. You used Raven Protocol. I've never heard of that. You have. I haven't. You just don't remember. The room became completely still. Logan slowly lifted one trembling hand. Come here. Against my better judgment, I stepped closer. He studied my face carefully, then whispered, You have your father's eyes. My heartbeat accelerated. You knew my father? He smiled sadly. He saved mine. The words hit me like a wave. What? I was 19, fresh out of Bud, SAS. My training accident almost killed me. He operated for 9 hours. He refused to leave the operating room. He looked directly into my eyes, and afterward, a little girl walked into recovery carrying a stuffed eagle. A strange ache spread across my chest. A stuffed eagle, blue wings, yellow beak. Why did that sound familiar? Logan continued. She smiled at me, said, Daddy says heroes need someone to cheer for them too. Suddenly, another memory flashed. Tiny hands holding a stuffed toy. Hospital hallway. Bright sunlight. Someone laughing. Then darkness. I grabbed the bed rail. My head. The room tilted. Logan reached carefully toward the bedside drawer. Inside, he removed something wrapped in tissue paper. I've carried this for 23 years. He unfolded the paper. Inside sat a tiny wooden eagle, hand-carved, its wings slightly chipped. The moment I saw it, tears filled my eyes. My voice disappeared. Without thinking, I reached toward it, held it carefully. It felt familiar, like something I'd touched 1,000 times. Logan smiled gently. You carved that. I couldn't have. You were 11. I don't remember. I know. Agent Cole quietly asked. Commander, tell us everything. Logan took a slow breath. Claire wasn't just Dr. Carter's daughter. She attended every advanced trauma workshop. She absorbed information like a sponge. Everyone joked she'd become the youngest surgeon in America. He looked at me. They called you Little Falcon. Tears rolled down my face. I don't remember any of it. His expression softened. I believe you. Then, his smile disappeared. There was an accident. The room froze. One night, the entire medical training facility burned. I looked toward Agent Cole. He slowly nodded. Logan continued. I was overseas. When I came back, they told us your parents were dead. You had disappeared. No records, no witnesses, nothing. My voice trembled. So, what really happened? Before Logan could answer, the ICU door suddenly burst open. A young FBI technician hurried inside. Agent Cole, what is it? We've got a problem. Cole stepped into the hallway. The technician whispered rapidly. I couldn't hear every word, only fragments. Security breach. Classified archive. Someone accessed Falcon's file. 3 hours ago. Cole's face turned pale. He looked back toward me. That's impossible. The technician handed him a tablet. Cole stared at the screen, then slowly turned it toward me. Hospital security footage. Recorded less than an hour earlier. Someone wearing a black hoodie. Standing outside ICU room 7. Watching through the window. The camera zoomed closer. The figure turned slightly. Enough for the face to become visible. A man, mid-40s, cold gray eyes. A thin scar across his cheek. Logan looked at the screen, and every trace of color disappeared from his face. His voice became barely a whisper. No. Agent Cole frowned. You know him? Logan nodded slowly. I thought he died 20 years ago. Who is he? Logan swallowed hard. His name is Derek Lawson. He was the last person ever seen, with Claire's parents. The room fell silent. Then Logan said the words that changed everything. And if Derek Lawson knows Falcon is alive, he won't stop until he finishes what he started. Nobody spoke. The name, Derek Lawson, hung in the ICU like smoke. I looked from the security footage to Commander Logan Pierce. His normally steady hands were trembling. For a Navy SEAL, that told me everything. Agent Nathan Cole immediately turned to the 2 FBI agents beside him. Lock down this floor. No visitors. No media. No exceptions. The younger agent nodded. Within seconds, uniformed hospital security officers appeared outside every entrance. Patients had no idea why. Doctors assumed it was some kind of VIP protocol. Only 5 people in the building knew the truth. Someone had come looking for me. I stared at Logan. Who is Derek Lawson? He closed his eyes. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Finally, he whispered, He used to be one of us. What does that mean? He worked with military intelligence. Not as a soldier. As a contractor, he specialized in classified medical research. I frowned. My parents were doctors. Logan nodded. Exactly. Agent Cole quietly added, Your father trusted him. My stomach tightened. And he betrayed him? Cole didn't answer. He didn't need to. Rain continued falling outside the hospital windows. Soft, almost peaceful. It felt wrong. The world looked so calm, while mine was falling apart. Logan slowly reached toward the bedside table. He picked up a glass of water. His hand shook. I instinctively steadied it. The moment my fingers touched his wrist, another memory exploded inside my mind. Bright operating room lights, a tiny pair of blue gloves, someone laughing, a man's voice. Falcon! Tell me which artery. Without thinking, a little girl's voice answered. Left subclavian. Adults applauded. Someone laughed proudly. The vision vanished. I gasped. The glass slipped from Logan's hand. It shattered across the hospital floor. Everyone looked at me. Agent Cole stepped forward. What happened? I remembered something. What? I knew an artery. He frowned. What artery? The left subclavian. Silence. Complete silence. Logan slowly smiled. You really were there. Agent Cole looked stunned. Claire, that's not something ordinary children know. I know. I shouldn't. The female FBI agent quietly opened her tablet. She searched through an old classified file, then turned the screen toward me. A training report, dated 23 years earlier. One paragraph had been highlighted. Subject Falcon correctly identified all major thoracic arteries during advanced trauma simulation. Age, 10 years, 8 months. I felt dizzy. This can't be happening. Logan looked at me gently. It already happened. You just forgot. Forgot. The word echoed through my mind. No, not forgot. Lost. Someone had taken those memories away. Agent Cole suddenly asked, Claire, have you ever had recurring dreams? I looked surprised. Since I was little. What kind? A fire. The room became silent again. I continued quietly. I always thought they were nightmares. I hear glass breaking. I smell smoke. I keep trying to find someone, but I never can. Logan lowered his head. Oh God. What? I asked. He looked at Agent Cole. I don't think they're dreams. Before anyone could speak again, the hospital lights flickered. Once, twice, then everything went dark. Emergency generators activated almost instantly. Dim red backup lights filled the hallway. Monitors continued running, but every security camera went offline. Agent Cole's voice became sharp. Move! Oh, the FBI agents drew their weapons. Hospital staff screamed. Patients looked around in confusion. One of the agents rushed back into the room. Power failure? The technician shook his head. No, someone shut the cameras off. Logan looked directly at Cole. He's here. The next 30 seconds felt endless. Every sound mattered. Footsteps, doors opening, radios crackling. Then, a nurse entered room 7 carrying medication. Something immediately felt wrong. I didn't recognize her. Neither did the charge nurse standing behind her. The woman smiled politely. Medication for Commander Pierce. Logan stared at her. His expression never changed. But I noticed something. His breathing slowed. His eyes narrowed, like a predator sensing danger. He suddenly shouted, Down! Everything happened at once. The nurse reached inside her pocket. Not for medication. For a small black pistol. The shot shattered the heart monitor. Glass exploded across the room. An FBI agent tackled her before she could fire again. The weapon slid beneath the hospital bed. Patients screamed down the hallway. Doctors dove behind desks. Logan ripped the IV from his arm. Ignoring every doctor's order, he rolled out of bed. Still weak, still recovering, still dangerous. Within seconds, the fake nurse was handcuffed. But she smiled, actually smiled. Agent Cole grabbed her shoulders. Who sent you? She laughed. You already know. Derek Lawson. She remained silent. Then she looked directly at me. You should have stayed dead. Every hair on my body stood up. Before anyone could stop her, she bit down on something hidden inside her mouth. A poison capsule. Foam appeared around her lips. Within seconds, she collapsed. Gone. The room became eerily quiet. Agent Cole cursed under his breath. They're eliminating their own people. Logan looked at me. No, they're protecting something. That evening, the FBI moved me to a secure government safe house. It wasn't luxurious, just a quiet cabin surrounded by pine trees. 2 agents remained outside 24 hours a day. I felt like a prisoner, only nobody had accused me of a crime. Around midnight, I couldn't sleep. I walked quietly into the kitchen. Agent Cole was already there, making coffee. He looked exhausted. So, I said softly, who am I? He sighed. I wish I had a simple answer. He slid a thick manila folder across the table. I got authorization to show you this. Inside were dozens of photographs, my biological parents, military hospitals, training facilities, medical diagrams. Then, one final photograph. It showed my father kneeling beside me. I couldn't have been older than 11. He smiled proudly while I stitched a practice wound on a medical mannequin. Across the back, someone had handwritten, Falcon completed emergency thoracic repair in 4 minutes 11 seconds. My heart nearly stopped. 4 minutes. Exactly like Logan's rescue. I whispered. I remembered. My hands remembered. Cole nodded. Your father believed memory lived in more than the brain. He believed repeated training became instinct. I looked up slowly. So when Logan collapsed, my body remembered, even though my mind didn't. Cole smiled sadly. Exactly. Tears rolled down my face. I don't even remember my parents. You loved them. I know, but I can't remember. Cole remained quiet. Then he asked one question. Would you like to know what really happened the night of the fire? I nodded immediately. He opened another file. This report remained classified for 20 years. He took a slow breath. The fire wasn't an accident. I felt my chest tighten. Derek Lawson wanted access to experimental battlefield medical research. Research your parents refused to surrender. My father said no. Yes. So Lawson burned the facility? Cole shook his head. It was supposed to look like an accident. What about my parents? His silence answered before his words did. They never came out. The room blurred. For 24 years, I'd believed they died in an accident. Now I learned they had been murdered. I quietly cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just silent tears. For two people, I couldn't even remember. Agent Cole gently placed another photograph beside me. This was recovered from the ruins. A silver necklace, shaped like a falcon, burned around the edges. Without thinking, I reached toward it. The instant my fingers touched the photograph, another memory came rushing back. Smoke, flames, my mother kneeling in front of me, holding my face. Catherine, I froze. That wasn't my name, was it? My mother continued. Listen to me. If anyone asks, you're Claire, you understand? I started crying. I don't want to leave. She kissed my forehead. You have to. Then, my father appeared, covered in soot. He placed the silver falcon necklace around my neck. You'll remember one day, he whispered, when it's safe. The memory ended. I opened my eyes, breathing hard. Agent Cole stared. What did you remember? I whispered 3 words. My name was Catherine. Cole slowly nodded. Yes. My parents changed it before they sent me away. He looked down. They knew someone would keep hunting you. At that exact moment, one of the FBI agents burst through the cabin door. Agent Cole, what happened? They found Derek Lawson. Cole stood instantly. Where? The agent swallowed. He wanted us to. What do you mean? He left a message. The agent handed over a small envelope. Across the front, written in black ink, were just 6 words. Falcon remembers. Phase 2 begins. Agent Cole looked up. His face had turned pale. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. No, he doesn't want Claire dead anymore. I stared at him. What does he want? Cole answered quietly. He wants what your father hid, and he believes you're the only person alive who can lead him to it. The voice laughed. Just like your father. Agent Cole looked through the shattered window. His face turned pale. What is it? I asked. He answered quietly. Derek Lawson. I swallowed hard. How many men? Cole never looked away from the window. Then he said 4 words that made my blood run cold. Far too many. Outside, dozens of headlights suddenly illuminated the forest, one after another, surrounding the cabin, closing in, and standing in the middle of them, holding a flashlight beneath the falling rain, was the man who had murdered my parents, Derek Lawson, smiling directly at me. The cabin fell silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The envelope sat on the table like a loaded weapon. Falcon remembers. Phase 2 begins. 6 words. Yet somehow, they felt heavier than everything that had happened before. I stared at Agent Cole. What does he mean? Cole looked exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that came from seeing a disaster before everyone else realized it had begun. He means we're running out of time. The FBI agent beside him asked quietly, Should we move her again? Cole nodded immediately. Tonight. No delays, no announcements, no digital records. I looked from one face to another. Can somebody please tell me what my father hid? Cole didn't answer right away. Instead, he opened another classified folder. This one looked older than the others. The pages were yellowed, edges worn, as if dozens of people had handled them over the years. Across the top of the first page, one title appeared, Project Nightingale. I frowned. What's that? Cole looked directly at me. The reason your parents were murdered. A chill ran through my body. He continued. 25 years ago, military medicine had a major problem. Soldiers were dying before they reached hospitals. I nodded slowly. That made sense. Severe trauma, blood loss, remote battlefields. Your parents believed they could change that, Cole said. They developed a revolutionary emergency trauma system. Logan sat quietly across the room listening. His expression grew darker with every word. Cole continued. Most surgeons require operating rooms, specialized equipment, entire teams. He pointed toward me. Your parents wanted to create procedures simple enough to perform anywhere. In a helicopter, in a battlefield, in a collapsed building, in the back seat of a truck. I swallowed. And they succeeded? Cole nodded. Better than anyone expected. He opened another file. Inside were handwritten diagrams, medical sketches, emergency procedures. These techniques could have saved thousands of lives. He said, military, civilian, everyone. I frowned. Then why hide them? The room became quiet again. Logan answered this time. Because some people wanted to sell them. I looked at him. He leaned forward. Derek Lawson wasn't interested in saving lives. He saw money, billions of dollars, private military contracts, foreign governments, medical corporations. His voice hardened. When your father refused, Lawson made a choice. I already knew what that choice had been. The fire. I closed my eyes. For years, I'd imagined my parents dying in an accident. Now, I knew they had died protecting something, protecting people, protecting me. A tear rolled down my cheek. Logan quietly handed me a tissue. You remind me of your father. I laughed weakly. I don't even remember him. You don't have to, he said softly. Sometimes character survives memory. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Then the younger FBI agent rushed back into the cabin. Agent Cole. The urgency in his voice immediately changed the room. What happened? Cole asked. We found another archive. Cole stood instantly. What archive? A hidden server. My heart started pounding. The agent continued. It belonged to Dr. Michael Carter. My father. Cole grabbed his laptop. Can you access it? The agent nodded. For the first time. Within minutes, everyone crowded around the dining table. A video file appeared on the screen. Timestamp. 24 years ago. I stopped breathing. The image flickered. Grainy. Old. Then, a man appeared. My father. For the first time in my life, I saw him. Not in a photograph, not frozen in time. Alive, moving, talking. I immediately began crying. He looked exactly like me around the eyes. The room disappeared. I heard nothing else, only his voice. If you're watching this, something has gone terribly wrong. My hands shook. My father continued. I pray Catherine never sees this recording. Catherine, my real name. But if she does, then I need her to know something. He smiled sadly. Catherine, if you're hearing my voice, none of this was your fault. I completely broke down. 24 years. 24 years without hearing those words. My father continued. You were never supposed to carry this burden. The video shifted. A woman stepped into frame. My mother. I covered my mouth. She smiled. The same smile I saw every morning in my own mirror. Hello, sweetheart, she whispered. I couldn't stop crying. I know you're scared, she said. And I know you probably don't remember us. My mother looked directly into the camera, as if she could somehow see me. That's okay. Memory isn't what makes someone family. Love does. Nobody in the cabin spoke. Even the FBI agents looked emotional. My father took a slow breath. If Derek Lawson ever finds you, it means he never stopped searching. The room became still. He'll be looking for Project Nightingale. My father smiled slightly. The good news is, he'll never find it. Agent Cole frowned. What? My father continued. Because the project doesn't exist anymore. Everyone stared. My father pointed toward a stack of papers. I destroyed every copy. Logan looked genuinely surprised. My father smiled. But knowledge isn't paper. It's people. Then he said something that changed everything. The only complete copy of Project Nightingale is stored in Catherine's memory. The room froze. I whispered, No. My father continued. She doesn't know it. She probably won't remember it. But after years of observation, we discovered something extraordinary. He smiled proudly. Our daughter possesses nearly perfect procedural memory. Cole slowly sat down. The room suddenly felt much smaller. My father continued. Everything she learns through repetition stays, even when conscious memory disappears. I looked toward Logan. The CPR technique, the pressure point, the rescue. It hadn't been random. My hands remembered. My father nodded inside the video, as if answering the question in my mind. One day, her instincts may save lives. My mother smiled. If that happens, tell her we're proud of her. I couldn't breathe. The video ended. Nobody spoke. For a long time. Finally, Cole whispered, "My God." Logan looked toward me. "That's why you saved me." I stared at my own hands. Hands that remembered things my mind couldn't. Hands carrying the last pieces of my parents' life's work. Then suddenly, the cabin exploded with alarms. Every FBI radio activated simultaneously. "Agent down! Agent down!" The room froze. Cole grabbed his weapon. Outside, gunfire erupted. The windows shattered. Glass sprayed across the room. Someone screamed. The power instantly died. Darkness swallowed everything. Then a familiar voice echoed through a loudspeaker outside. Calm, confident, terrifying. "Don't be afraid, Catherine." Every hair on my body stood up. The voice continued. "I've been looking for you. For 24 years. Logan immediately moved in front of me, instinctively shielding me. Rain hammered against the cabin roof. Broken glass covered the floor. Outside, more than a dozen black SUVs formed a circle around the cabin. Their headlights pierced through the darkness like prison spotlights. Commander Logan Pierce slowly chambered a round into the rifle an FBI agent handed him. Despite leaving intensive care only hours earlier, his movements were calm, deliberate. The same calm I'd seen that morning before his heart stopped. Only now, he wasn't fighting death. He was preparing to face it. Agent Nathan Cole quickly looked around the room. "We have 6 agents. 3 wounded, limited ammunition." He looked toward me. "And the one person they came for." I whispered. "I'm sorry." Logan immediately turned toward me. "No, never apologize for surviving." Outside, a loudspeaker crackled again. Derek Lawson's voice echoed through the trees. "Catherine, I know you're inside. You don't have to let anyone else die." Silence. Then, another voice came through the speaker. An older man, crying. "Please, don't shoot." Agent Cole froze. "They've taken one of our perimeter agents." Lawson laughed. "You have exactly 5 minutes. Bring me Falcon, or everyone in that cabin dies." Nobody spoke. 5 minutes. The same amount of time that had nearly cost Logan his life. I slowly stood. "I'm going." "No," Logan answered immediately. "I'm not sacrificing anyone." Cole shook his head. "That's exactly what Lawson expects." The younger FBI agent suddenly interrupted. "Sir, I found something." He hurried over carrying an old metal lockbox that had been hidden beneath loose floorboards. One of the safe house blueprints mentioned a concealed compartment. Cole forced the rusted lid open. Inside lay 3 items: a leather notebook, a silver falcon necklace, and a sealed envelope. Across the front, written in my father's handwriting, were 6 words. "Only Catherine may open this." My hands trembled as I broke the seal. Inside there was only one handwritten letter. "My sweet Catherine, if you're reading this, then Logan survived." I looked up in shock. Logan's eyes widened. "My father knew?" Logan whispered. "He planned for everything." I continued reading aloud. "If Logan Pierce is standing beside you, trust him with your life. He's the bravest young man I ever treated." Logan quietly looked away, trying to hide tears. The letter continued. "Catherine, Project Nightingale was never about surgery. It was about compassion." I frowned. "Medical knowledge without kindness becomes power. Power without conscience becomes evil. That's why Derek Lawson could never understand our work." I swallowed hard. "The greatest discovery wasn't the procedures. It was you." Tears blurred my vision. You reminded every soldier that someone still believed they were worth saving. Logan quietly closed his eyes. The letter ended with one final sentence. If one day you must choose between protecting knowledge or protecting people, always choose people. I folded the letter slowly. Something inside me changed, not because I suddenly remembered everything, but because, for the first time, I understood my parents. Outside, Lawson shouted again. Time's almost up. I looked toward Agent Cole. I know what he's really after. Cole nodded. My father's research. No, I interrupted. He wants control. Logan smiled. Now you sound exactly like your father. A sudden idea formed in my mind, not from memory, from instinct. I turned toward Cole. How many drones do you have? He looked confused. What? The surveillance drones. 3. Good. Within 2 minutes, every light inside the cabin went dark, completely. Lawson smiled outside. They're surrendering. He slowly walked toward the front porch. Several armed men followed behind him. Then, the cabin door opened. I stepped outside, alone, holding my father's notebook. Rain soaked my sweater instantly. Lawson smiled. Catherine, you finally came home. He looked older than I expected. Gray hair, cold blue eyes, a scar stretched across one side of his face. There wasn't a trace of regret in him. He extended one hand. The notebook. I looked at him calmly. You murdered my parents. He shrugged. They refused to cooperate. My voice remained steady. They were trying to save lives. They were wasting opportunity, he replied. Their work could have made us all wealthy. I realized something. He genuinely believed that. Even after 24 years, he still couldn't understand why my parents had refused. I held up the notebook. You'll never understand them. He smiled. We'll see. Then, everything happened at once. 3 FBI drones suddenly burst upward from behind the cabin. Floodlights illuminated the entire clearing. Hidden snipers, who had quietly arrived by helicopter during the negotiations, opened infrared targeting lasers across the surrounding forest. Dozens of red dots appeared on Lawson's men. Agent Cole stepped out. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Drop your weapons. Gunfire erupted. The forest exploded into chaos. Logan rushed from the cabin despite still recovering from cardiac arrest. He tackled one gunman before the man could fire toward me. I screamed, Logan! He rolled behind a fallen tree, returning controlled fire with remarkable precision. Years of Navy SEAL training taking over. Lawson grabbed my arm, hard. You're coming with me. Before I could react, he pulled a pistol. Everything slowed. A loud gunshot echoed. Then another. Lawson suddenly stumbled backward, confused. He looked down. Blood spread across his shoulder. Standing 20 feet away, Commander Logan Pierce lowered his pistol. Lawson fired wildly in return. The bullet struck Logan in the side. No! I screamed. Logan fell heavily against the muddy ground. Without thinking, I ran toward him. Agent Cole shouted, Claire, stay back. I ignored him. Blood soaked through Logan's uniform. Fast. Too fast. My hands moved before I could think. Pressure, compression, position, breathing, exactly as they had on the sidewalk. Only this time, more memories returned. My father guiding my hands. My mother smiling proudly. Military medics applauding. Everything came flooding back. Not every childhood memory. Not birthdays. Not holidays. Only what mattered. The lessons. The compassion. The purpose. Logan looked up weakly. You remembered? I smiled through tears. Enough. Using the techniques my parents had taught me, I stabilized the bleeding long enough for the trauma team to reach us. Minutes later, Lawson attempted to escape through the forest. A helicopter spotlight locked onto him. He looked upward, realized there was nowhere left to run. Agent Cole approached slowly. It's over. Lawson laughed bitterly. No, you'll never rebuild Nightingale. Cole smiled. We're not rebuilding it. He looked toward me. We're giving it away. Months later, Commander Logan Pierce stood on stage inside the National Military Medical Center, completely recovered. I sat in the front row, holding the silver falcon necklace. The Secretary of Defense stepped to the podium. Today, we honor two people who gave everything so others might live. Behind him, large photographs appeared. Dr. Michael Carter, Dr. Elena Carter. For the first time in history, their names were no longer classified. The audience stood, doctors, soldiers, nurses, families. Hundreds of people applauded. Then, the secretary smiled toward me. And today, the Carter Medical Foundation officially opens. I walked slowly to the stage, still overwhelmed, still grieving, still healing. He handed me a small bronze plaque. Across the front were my father's final words: always choose people. I looked out across the audience. Logan stood first, then Agent Cole, then every soldier in the room. One by one, they saluted. Not because I had saved a Navy SEAL, not because I had remembered Project Nightingale, but because two ordinary doctors had believed that every human life was worth saving. 1 year later, Project Nightingale became free. Every emergency procedure, every trauma protocol, every lesson my parents created was released worldwide. No patents, no licensing, no corporations, no profit. Hospitals across the world adopted the techniques. Military medics learned them. Paramedics learned them. Volunteer rescue teams learned them. Lives were saved every single day. Sometimes, people ask me what it felt like to lose my memories. I always tell them the same thing. Memories can disappear. Photographs can fade. Names can be forgotten. But kindness has a strange way of surviving, because somewhere, deep inside us, our hearts remember, even when our minds cannot. And every time I teach a young nurse how to save a life, I hear my father's voice again. Soft, proud, certain. Good job, Falcon.